Hello everybody, welcome to Tangle 21 and the last one of 2023. Last time we ended with this, and I sped through a few things to get this result. So let's slow down and think a little bit about how to get data into the database. I manually put this into IntelliJ here, but I can get what I did out by clicking export and then choose JSON and do export to file. First, I want to fix this. This should be intercap. And I'm going to make separate files for each one of these. Now get rid of this. I want to start off by reading these in and putting them in the database if there's nothing in the database when Spring starts. Let's put this in the controller. I'm going to call post construct. So this method will run whenever this controller gets constructed right afterwards. I only do it if repo is empty. Now let's do a little bread and butter Java programming, the kind that for some reason tutorials always seem to start with. I want to get a list of files from this directory. I'm going to use the Jackson mapper that'll allow me to map from JSON to Hojos. All right, this could possibly work. So first we get a file list from the content dir, which I put up here. Everything is always, actually no, this has to be like this. And put entries. Everything is relative within the JVM to the resources directory, so it's content entries. And so it gets the file list, iterates, then uses this Apache function to read a file from a string to a string. And then we use Jackson to map it to this and then save it to the database. Okay, so we want to delete our database, so it'll initialize it. This isn't going to work. We need to use a Spring utility called resource utils, and we have to tell it that it's relative to the class path. I also need to fix this here, and let's go down to our database table and add these in. Okay, let's try it out. Okay, we got the file list, and let's see if it's in the database. And it is. Very nice. Now, because I can, I'm going to speed through adding all the rest of the episodes. While I'm doing this, I'm going to add in a YouTube link and do the dates. Okay, and now I have to add that and also in here. Clear these tables out. and rerun everything. We're missing some. All right, I think I'm going to just take out all of the IDs. That worked. I don't know why, but I don't care. It looks pretty good. Obviously, the order is kind of screwed. I'm going to take out these T files. So sorting is pretty easy. Here's the list. And I'm going to try it. Look at that. Now let's move on to showing an individual entry. If I click here, we've got an error. Let's fix that. First though, let's check in our code. It's been a while. The problem is we're doing things in the old HTTP way where we're pulling a page each time. And what we need to do is switch over to the SPA way. And to do that, we need to use another hook, which is called use navigate. For those that don't know, this is what's called a lambda. It is an actual function that's treated like a piece of data. It does not call when it first gets here. It tucks this away until this click event happens, and then it calls this. Better. You'll notice that it doesn't really act like these are links anymore, like this. And one way to fix that is to change these to PrimeReact buttons, buttons with a link. Okay, good. First thing I see, since this is the entry page, is that we need to move the title. Here it is right here. Instead of being in episodes, I need to put that in lists. Now we need to get the page here. They're up here in this blogs thing. So I think it's this one. No, this is the full size one. And then I think this one. This is what we want to replicate here. Okay, I don't even really care about what's in here. I'm just going to select the whole thing. Entry. Let's grab the sidebar. And then you want anything that was before that. It wraps around both of these guys. So I'll put that in entry view. I'm going to take the nav out for now. And let's see. No errors. And let's click on this. Good. Good. We don't have any images, of course, but we got the sidebar on the side. And just to really push it, let's see what happens when you... Yeah, look at that. This is why I use a template. Okay, next step is to get some live data. Unlike last time, I am not going to speed through it. It's going to copy this stuff from entry list and put it in the top of entry. And instead of a list, we're going to just be getting the entry. This is React's way of doing a local variable. You have to always put entry and then set entry. And this is for initializing it. So right now we're going to initialize it to null. This is a hook that basically means run this when the page loads. And this is the fetch API. which fetches this. As you can see, it's another one of these Fluent APIs where you have a chain of method calls. So the result of this gets passed to this. The result of this gets passed to this. So we make the call. An HTTP response comes back and it converts it to JSON. And then that gets passed here. And then we set the entry from this data. Now I need to use the right API and I'm going to put entry key, which I'm going to grab from the props object up here. And so if all goes well, we'll have our entry when this page loads. Now let's do something with it. First, I'll put the thumbnail, then the title. Here's the post date. All right, let's try it. One thing I like to do is run npm watch. And so this is just going to sit here and see if there's any changes to the React files and automatically compile them. This is really useful when you're working with Spring. So I'm going to run Spring. Let's check it out. This is not bad. Obviously, we want to make this smaller. It's here. And I want to do the same thing I did in card, which is right here. Okay, that's a little nicer. Okay, let's make this smaller, format this properly, and get rid of this space here. So I'm going to make a method to format the date and just put it up here. So that's fairly arcane, but you can Google it and find it if you forget. So hopefully that's going to work here. Oh, I got to put it in JavaScript. Next, the size of the title. You can see this says 2XL. So let's just try LG for large. And then the other thing I wanted to do was the space up top, which is coming from somewhere else. It's coming from outside in the view, this here. All right, so let's just try, I don't know, 5 and 5, see what happens. All right, it didn't like the time. Okay, I have a simple fix. Since I'm going to be doing dates more completely later, let's just revert this and then go up to the data. Change it to 6 o'clock. See, this doesn't seem to be different. Okay, we'll talk about what this means later, but I'm pretty sure this is what's going on. So let's try and see if it changes. Yep. And then the space. That's better. Okay, a little bit less here and here. Okay, a little bit more. Okay, I like that. Okay, now a previous and next nav bar. I'm going to need a new API call. So there's a much better way to do this, but this is the quickest for right now. I can refactor it later. To get the previous entry, I get the list and then iterate through the list, marking the previous entry after the check. And then for the next entry, I do the opposite. I start from the end of the list and go back. It's the same logic. Again, this is inefficient as hell, but it'll work. Now let's wire up some Postman tests. And I didn't do the right URLs, so I'll make them. Stepping through seems to work. Same with next. Let's try returning just the key, not the full entry. Let's try it. Good. And good. Now let's make use of those calls by putting in a navigation toolbar, which is in here. So I'm going to grab this and go to entry nav. Oops. So I have a previous and next key that I fetch from the API in the useEffects method. And then I create a link from that and buttons to click, and they navigate to the links. And then down here, the toolbar has the prev nav on the left and the next nav on the right. Okay, let's try it out. Okay, next. All right, doesn't look good, but it works. Now for a little quick styling. This is more like it. Beautiful. So while it's quite possible that the gherkin could pass right now, I'm going to end before that because, as you can probably tell from the date and time, I'm more than ready to start my holiday break. Happy New Year, everybody. See you after the break.